How the heck are you? Happy Friday. I know that everybody is here for the George Kliavkoff celebration of life. You know,
calculations.
George, listen, my guy, I don't even know where to begin with this today, because Kliavkoff said that they were not going to announce a TV deal today because they didn't want to take any of the focus away from football. And hey, listen, I get it. Pac-12 football, I've told you for months and months on this show, is undervalued nationally. There's no question about that. But what George Kliavkoff did today, I think absolutely took the spotlight off of football and ruined Pac-12 Media Day.
Mm-hmm.
I think what George Kliavkoff did today was an absolute travesty. It is an embarrassment. It is a blight on the face of this conference. It is a blight on the face of all 10 of the remaining members. It is an insult to just about everybody in this conference. George Kliavkoff is a buffoon. He is an embarrassment, and he should be fired as the commissioner of the Pac-12, because what he said today was ridiculous. First of all, I want to play some video of George. The first thing that everybody said today was, oh, George Kliavkoff is using a teleprompter, to which I say, that's fine, except if you're going to use a teleprompter, you need to be able to read. And he struggled mightily to read the prompter and to speak clearly and sound like he had some idea of what he was reading, because I think it came off poorly. I mean, I don't know about what you think about that.
I mean, there were definitely some moments where it just felt like he was kind of, just having difficulty, and I think that everyone wants to hate on the guy for using a teleprompter. I'm not hating on the guy for using a teleprompter.
That doesn't matter.
I think it's silly to hate on the guy. Now, if you want to say, well, did the other commissioners, did Greg Sankey or Brett Yormark?
That's some petty ass BS. Who cares?
Who
cares?
But when we talk about, and we'll get to the video, but when we talk about, being a polished commissioner, I do think there's a little bit to it. Now, the idea, I do need to point out, the idea that we were at Big 12 Media Days, Brett Yormark had a pamphlet, it must have been 10 pages at least of his speech on paper. So it's not like these guys just talk off the top of the dome, dude.
I don't care that George Kliavkoff uses a teleprompter. The President of the United States for generations has used a teleprompter.
Yeah.
The problem is, again, before I play this clip, George Kliavkoff does not, to me, sound well-spoken, prepared, or intelligent. And I would think those three things are really important if you're going to be the commissioner of the Pac-12.
Before I finish my remarks, let me provide you with an update on our media rights negotiation and our approach to considering expansion. I know there's been never-ending speculation about the timing of our media deals, but in the end, we're on track to announce our deals at about the same time as everyone would have anticipated and predicted before the news of conference realignment. The Pac-12 Board of Directors has met regularly throughout the process and has been united in their commitment to one another and to the Pac-12, and this commitment and patience will be rewarded with an announcement in the near future. Getting the right deal has always been more important to our board and to the conference than getting the expeditious one.
What does that even mean? So your on schedule had realignment not taken place. Well, the only problem is realignment did take place, sir. And the landscape of college football is changing not only day by day and hour by hour, minute by minute. And you stood up there today and said, hey, before we go on, I want to talk about this deal.
Mm-hmm.
And then you proceeded to just kick it all over the place. And I'm just curious, who wrote this speech? Because if George Kliavkoff wrote this speech, that would, you don't say that. And my issue is, if you think, well, because essentially what he's saying is everything's normal. There's nothing wrong here.
Nothing to see
There's
here.
nothing to see here.
Yeah, dude.
Everything, but the problem is there's plenty to see here. There are problems. The landscape of the media world is changing. You have to change with that, whether you have a media deal or you don't. There's a story breaking about ESPN that we're going to tell you about coming up in a minute. But ESPN is constantly evolving. That's one of your partners right now. He just sounds uninformed to me. And then here's what he said about expansion.
Regarding potential expansion, while we have already done the due diligence on expansion candidates many months ago and significantly narrowed our focus to a handful of schools, our sequence remains unchanged. First, we will conclude our media rights deals. Then our schools will sign our grant of rights, which has already been negotiated. And only then will we decide on potential expansion.
Media rights deals, and then just tripping and falling all over yourself. And only then, and he was asked about San Diego State, and he says he's never offered anybody a spot in the conference for expansion.
Right.
So is San Diego State lying?
So let me get this right. So San Diego State put it in writing that they were leaving the conference for no reason.
And then this one is very interesting because I actually think this is the best point that he has made, and it was made as an afterthought.
We constantly update our board. I think they're enthusiastic like I am about the media deal. But I will tell you what we've seen is that the longer we wait for the media deal, the better our options get. And I think our board realizes that. And there's an underlying shift in the media market that's happening, and we're long-term taking advantage of that. But short-term, it may have provided some hiccups.
He's not wrong. Everybody was up in arms over that bite. The longer we wait, the better it is. At this point, yes, because it's gone on over a year, and now it's almost like the cycle is coming back around where you have this situation with Disney, by extension ESPN, trying to make a deal with Comcast to be an equity partner. There's this story breaking today where ESPN is going to the major sports entities in this country, MLB, NBA, NFL, saying, hey, why don't you buy an equity stake in ESPN and we'll be partners, which is absolutely brilliant because it means, like in the NFL, I believe it's $7 billion a year, whatever ESPN pays the NFL, they would get to take a certain amount off of that. The NFL would then own part of one of its largest distribution partners, and the distribution partner benefits because less cash is going out, and the sales funnel just got much larger.
Yeah. Because
the league is selling in, and ESPN and Disney are selling in. Brilliant. I agree. The longer it goes on, the better it is. And if that was the last thing he said, if this following bite in exchange had never happened, this would have been a very uneventful Pac-12 football media day. We would probably all just be talking who's the best team in the Pac-12.
Right.
But, of course, it's George Kliavkoff, and we can't do that.
I don't want the opportunity to be missed today to talk about football. We're not announcing a media deal on purpose today because I want the focus to be on football.
George, just to follow on what you just said, I think a response ago, because it caught a lot of people's attention very quickly. You just said you're not announcing a deal today on purpose because you want the attention to be on football.
Yep.
To be clear, that would imply that the deal is done and codified and just you're waiting until after today.
I think you're reading too much into that.
So then what is the purpose behind not announcing something, which is what you just said?
We want to have the focus on football today. We have an incredibly good football story to tell, and we want that to be the focus today.
But that's not what you said. That's not what you said on purpose. And I think this is an incredibly important moment in time for the Pac-12 because you hear all of this wild speculation. And you have Heather Dinich from ESPN the other day just jumping into the deep end of the pool head first, probably doesn't know how to swim. Like, she's all in on it. The radio wizard of the Northwest, who has not been seen or heard from today, is all in on it. Like, you hear all of this stuff. And yet, the one guy who seems to have a set of balls on him, James Krepia from the Oregonian, asks the follow-up question, because listen to what George Kliavkoff says. There's two words here that are really important. And those two words are on purpose.
I don't want the opportunity to be missed today to talk about football. We're not announcing a media deal on purpose today because I want the focus to be on football.
George, just to follow on what you just said, I think a response ago, because it caught a lot of people's attention very quickly. You just said you're not announcing a deal today on purpose because you want the attention to be on football.
Yep.
To be clear, that would imply that the deal is done and codified and just you're waiting until after today.
I think you're reading too much into that.
So then what is the purpose behind not announcing something, which is what you just said?
We want to have the focus on football today. We have an incredibly good football story to tell, and we want that to be the focus today.
You're just a goof. You're an embarrassment. You are incompetent. George Kliavkoff is Larry Scott, but worse.
8.0.
Because at least Larry Scott was well-spoken. At least when Larry Scott was incompetent, he could at least spit shine the turd, right? This guy can't even do that. When you say something like, hey, we're not announcing this on purpose, it means there's a purpose to not announcing the TV deal today. Because he said, we're not announcing the TV deal today on purpose. Okay, thank you, James Krepia from the Oregonian. What was the purpose of not announcing your TV deal today? Oh, well, you're just reading too much into that. So you don't have a TV deal. That's what you're saying. The other thing that was wildly obvious today that I think a lot of people are not pointing out, where were the other questions? Where was the media asking, well, you had a meeting with your presidents. What was discussed in that meeting? His answer would have been, well, I'm not going to talk about that. Okay, were dollar figures discussed? Was the TV deal discussed, and were dollar figures discussed with those presidents? I'm not going to talk about that today. Okay, no problem. Do you believe that you're going to be able to get all 10 of these teams in this conference to sign a grant of rights with the media deal that you are purposefully not announcing today? Do you believe that all 10 members of this conference will sign the grant of rights with the deal that you maybe or maybe not presented to them yesterday? Ask the question. But I think the thing that happened here was, as soon as this situation with on purpose and James Krepia happened, what happened with the presser? It ended almost immediately. And this is why we have not heard from George Kliavkoff in 7 months. Since I believe it was December or January.
Facts.
Was the last time that George Kliavkoff did something like this. We haven't heard from him in 7 months. And this is why. You're one day where football can be front and center. And George Kliavkoff completely botched it. And Jake, I just don't understand why and how George Kliavkoff will continue to be the commissioner of the Pac-12.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why you would allow him to continue representing the conference. I mean, it's so funny you bring up the point about him not talking since December or January. He was asked point blank about that. And what was the excuse? Well, the excuse was, well, we were taking the high road. We weren't going to get involved in all the speculation, and we weren't going to comment on what people were talking about with our media deal and, the path of the conference. So for me, I just think George is tactically as a speaker is not great. And I think George doesn't understand that when you're a commissioner, every word you speak matters. Like, quite literally, every word you speak matters. And I think that's why this on purpose thing is so powerful. Because again, it has a different meaning than saying, hey, we're not going to talk about the situation with our TV deal. Because that's really where, he kind of hung himself, if you will. That's really where he kind of trapped himself with the media. Because he said he made it very clear that they had a deal, or that was the inference. and then he rolled out on purpose. Whereas if you would have just said, "Hey, we're not gonna discuss the situation as it currently stands with our media rights negotiations, because we would like to spend media day focusing on the student athletes and the sport itself." That is how you need to roll it out. Not, hey, we're intentionally not talking about our media rights deal because we want to focus on football. You're trying to say the same thing, but you're saying it two different ways, and you happen to say it in a way where my guy over here, James Crepia from the Oregonian, took you to the woodshed over it, and then you finished the presser on a negative note.
Because you said on purpose.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like, so when it comes to, like, we started the show talking about the teleprompter thing, and I agree with you. The teleprompter thing is a rather stupid criticism, but you're going to get criticized over the teleprompter because in your opening regards that we just played, you were tripping over yourself, and then you made that mistake.
But what is the use of a teleprompter for a guy like George Kliavkoff represent? This is the balls of the conversation. He can't talk freely off the top of his head. And again, we were there. We watched it happen live at Big 12 Football Media Days last week in Tarrant County, Texas.
County.
Right, at AT&T Stadium. You have a commissioner in Brett Yormark who stood up there in front of a crowd at Big 12 Football Media Day that was at least 4, maybe 5 times the size of this one, with a piece of paper in his hand, not in front of a teleprompter with prepared remarks. Brett Yormark can talk off the top of his head. You can't trust George Kliavkoff to do that.
Mm-hmm.
He probably does not trust himself. That's what that says. And then he has trouble reading the teleprompter, which I'm telling you, I know you think I'm nitpicking. I'm telling you it's an issue because he does not come off well-spoken, right? And then when you get into the free-form question and answer, he completely botched it. And I think it was innocuous. I don't think there was any intent behind it. You know, it's funny. My wife was busting my balls today.
Mm-hmm.
In the basement, I played golf this morning. I went to the driving range. I came home. My wife works at home. I was in the basement stretching in her general work area. And I can't remember what we were talking about. I think we were talking about golf courses. And I said, man, what I wouldn't give. And she stopped and she said, no, what you would give. Right? Like she made, it's not what you wouldn't give. It's what you would give. Exactly right, George Kliavkoff. You said on purpose. We're not announcing the TV deal on purpose. My guess is George was trying to say, I'm not here to talk about the TV deal because our football teams deserve better. They deserve the entire spotlight. I am not going to comment on the terms, the status of this TV deal. And what they should do is have a separate media function for George next week at some point down the road where I'm going to sit and do a Zoom call, whatever it is, I don't care. I'll do a Q&A with the media at some point, but it won't be today because Pac-12 football deserves the spotlight, and they do. You have multiple teams in this conference that are going to play for a national championship potentially. Yet we're not talking about that. We're not talking about Lincoln Riley. We're not talking about Kyle Whittingham. We're not talking about Kalen DeBoer. We're not talking about Penix Jr. We're not talking about Caleb Williams no longer having an afro. We're not talking about Cam Rising. We're talking about George Kliavkoff, the buffoon, the embarrassment, the guy who, in my opinion, now cannot continue as the commissioner of the Pac-12. It simply cannot happen. Even if it's just on this San Diego State situation, because I also think that was a huge part of this today. When he said, we have not had discussions, we have not issued invitations to anybody. So either San Diego State's completely incompetent and they're just lying through their teeth, or George Kliavkoff is completely incompetent and lying through his teeth, or worst case scenario, they're both completely incompetent.
Yep.
Because that's what it feels like.
Yeah, I mean, no matter what, someone comes out looking stupid. And I just think, look, the reason it surprises me so much that he had this gaffe, if you will, this mistake, this mishandling of the whole thing today, The reason it's so surprising is because it's not like this was some surprise event. It's not like, this is TMZ rolling up on you in the street, right? Like this is an event that you're putting on that you're going to kick off. And what's so funny about it is you decided it would be a good idea to roll out on the dais or the podium at 8 a.m. Pacific. You didn't wait till 11:30 or noon on the first day like Brett Yormark did, right? You didn't wait for media day to kind of get going and allow people to do some interviews, let people work a little bit. Then we're going to officially kick off the event. You didn't do it that way. You wanted to get in there early and get out as fast as possible. And the problem is, and what I feel like nobody in the national media wants to talk about, is after that whole incident got done and wrapped up, they go and have their little panel, right, where George, I think his associate commissioner, I believe it was, or whatever, and Mark Harlan, the AD at Utah, the three of them are sitting on stage answering questions, and Mark Harlan is sitting over here for probably 10 minutes before someone asks him a question. First question he gets, knocks it out of the ballpark, sounds perfectly prepared and ready to go and polished. Anybody else felt like, wow, maybe this guy should be the one doing the talking. Because I wonder, what would this conference be like if you had a polished, just a professional speaker at the helm?
What would this conference be like if Brett Yormark was the one navigating these difficult waters?
Yeah. Probably wouldn't be in difficult waters.
If Brett Yormark or Mark Harlan, I even tweeted it today. Here, I'll say what everybody's thinking. Mark Harlan should be the commissioner of the Pac-12. But he's not, and it's George Kliavkoff. All right, enough of us. More of you. Let's get your thoughts in here on the show. As always, all of our comment section, all of the things that you guys say on the show, we appreciate you so much. You guys carry the show every single day. And as we usually do, if you guys contribute to the show, we read your comments first. Matt Ritson gets to lead us off today. He gives us $5 to say the Pac-12 Conference and Commissioner should run media day at Circus Hotel Vegas. Was most embarrassing watch on TV. There are no TV deals.
By the way, that's the other thing we got to talk about. I'm glad you brought that up. How many of your streams are you going to put out that don't have audio? How many radio shows are you going to do on your network that are doing the show while George is talking and you're not piping in George's press conference?
Yeah, that was remarkable today, like driving into the office, trying to find George Kliavkoff's press conference and having to listen to it on my phone. And the first YouTube channel I pulled up from the Pac-12 had no audio stream on it. He's standing there just talking away. Couldn't hear him. Could not hear him. Walked into the office and Jake's like, hey, did you see the Pac-12's first YouTube stream doesn't have audio? I was like, yeah, I was trying to watch and listen.
Because it's garbage.
Sirius XM channel, I think it's 371. Yeah, they didn't stream it live. The Pac-12 Sirius XM channel did not stream George Kliavkoff's press event live.
How?
You had two dudes talking about absolutely nothing that was of consequence, and you can hear it a little bit in the background, George Kliavkoff talking. Like, what are you guys doing? Yeah. What? Just copy what the Big 12 and the SEC did the last couple of weeks, and you'd have been fine. But they didn't do that. They didn't do that. And much to Ritson, much to your point here, it's amazing how these events, there are logistics. I get it. They're not hard to execute. Put your stars on stage and point a camera at them and make sure the microphone works. A la Messi with Apple TV MLS.
Yeah.
Introducing Lionel Messi. Yeah, no audio. George Kliavkoff, perhaps the single most important press event he's ever done. The audio didn't work on their first YouTube stream. It's completely and utterly incompetent that this goes on.
Yeah.
And I say this, and I don't know if you can tell, and you probably don't give a damn. This is frustrating to me. It's upsetting to me. I'm disappointed because this league deserves better.
Yeah.
These institutions, whether you're a flyover guy or a truck stop guy, I don't care who you are. There's no denying that these 10 remaining institutions deserve better. These are fantastic universities run by really smart academias who just have no idea what to do with sports.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I don't even know how to. It's like that person that you just hand a baby to who's never held a child before. That's what it looks like to me. Like this kid is shitting himself all over your lap and you don't know how to fix it.
Yeah.
Because you have all these brilliant academic people and you can't get them together on athletics. Like Kurt Schultz at Washington State, by all accounts, is a pretty smart human being. Just get him away from athletics.
Dude, seriously.
Because he's running them into the ground.
Yeah.
And now he's in charge of the conference. He is
That's
the
the
chairman.
untrained eye.
He is, absolutely it is. He's the chairman of the Pac-12 board of directors. And who's he reporting to or talking with? George Kliavkoff, who today left no doubt about his incompetence. This conference deserves better. You have Tessier Levine at Stanford having to resign over questions about his ethics.
Brutal.
And he's on the Pac-12 board of directors until August. He will now have to resign over that. You have President Cossé at Washington, who I don't think gives a two shits about sports, if we're being honest. I don't think she cares.
Nah.
Okay, we'll move her off the board of directors and we'll elevate Bobby Robbins.
But that was just standard protocol. That wasn't a choice.
Put anybody...
Right?
And it's not that Bobby Robbins at Arizona, the president at Arizona, is incompetent or a bad dude or dumb or really excellent educator, administrator, and one of the most vocal proponents of the quality and the footprint. He really likes the footprint of the Big 12. He likes the power basketball brand of the Big 12.
Yeah.
And he has some affinities for the Big 12.
Yeah.
Let's put that guy on the board of directors.
I want it.
Come on, man. Like, come on.
That's what I say.
Like, get out of your own way.
That's what I say. Like when we talk about, hey, is the conference going to survive, or what's the long-term outlook? That's why sometimes I have some reservations because everywhere you look, it seems like there's not really much positivity happening in this conference.
I'm just so frustrated with it, man. I'm so frustrated with it. B gives us $5 to say Pac-12 commissioner is either lying or he's incompetent, maybe both. Dude. Yes. Yeah.
Don't lie to me.
That's the whole. Yes. That's the whole comment. Zach Sloter. What's up, Zach? Good to see you. $5 to say the longer the Pac-12 goes without a media deal, the better things will get. Right. I actually think that's true at this point.
Wow.
Because now it's drug on so long. It's been more than a calendar year that the media industry is almost changed completely. The way that the stuff going on at NBC Universal and Comcast, the changes happening at ESPN and Disney, like you look at the major players, look at the formation of Scripps Sports. Ion TV, owned by Scripps, they form Scripps Sports. Look at their groundbreaking deal with the WNBA. Look at their groundbreaking deal with the Las Vegas Golden Knights.
Yeah.
Like, look at Bally Sports going out of business, losing their ass in Arizona. The AT&T Sportsnet no longer exists. The regional sports network dead. The game is changing. It's going to stream. You look at the way NBA teams are distributing their stuff. Look at the Yankees. Look at Yes Network. Furthermore, look at MSG.
Yeah.
MSG offering the Knicks and the Rangers, and I can't remember who the third team is, but Knicks and the Rangers on an app that you can pay per game to watch. The game is changing. So you've been without a deal for over a year now that you've been trying to get a new deal. So the market, just by stupid luck, now is kind of coming around to where maybe you can make a deal that's more than $20 million per year per school. Maybe. So I know, Sloter, that sounds stupid, but I don't think they planned it this way. Let's not get carried away and say, well, we planned to just wait the market out. No, you didn't. You wanted this deal done with Fox and ESPN, which was never going to happen in your exclusive window. That's when you wanted it done. You had no idea the market was going to change. Now, is it better to be lucky than good? Sure. Sure it is in this situation.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that. But yeah, I think the longer it's gone on, especially since I would say Q2 here in 2023, right? The second 3 months of the year here, I think the game changed dramatically.
Yeah.
And I think, again, you look at ESPN with Pat McAfee. The sports talk game is changing dramatically. Sports talk radio is dying in this country. Dying. Yet you look at Pat McAfee, he's going to ESPN. Now they're building around Pat McAfee and they're laying people off and they're hiring more staff to support. But like,
Yep.
look at what College Game Day has changed. Completely changed.
Yep. Caught the fat.
The game is changing. That's what George said. I believe him. Don't you? LOL. Go Cyclones. There you go. OG Gary, what's up, Gary? Ran some back of the teleprompter calculations.
Oh, okay.
Back of the
envelope calculations.
That's
Okay.
so good, Gary. And carrying the zero a few digits, show a deal will be done in year 1751 after the rapture.
Okay, see? Damn. See, maybe we need to have Gare Bear on the show to kind of bring us into the back of the teleprompter side of things.
Yeah, so we were just off by a couple of thousand years. Our bad.
Yeah, that's why George was stuttering so much, because, the calculations were tough.
That's hysterical. But back of the envelope calculations is one of the most infamous.
Back of the envelope calculations.
That's one of the most infamous things that have ever been said by George.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Emma in ZZ World gives us $2 to say GK is shy Ronnie. He pissed himself. Well,
I guess.
dude, you could see him. Watch his face when he got into it with James Crapia. Watch his face here.
I don't want the opportunity to be missed today to talk about football. We're not announcing a media deal on purpose today because I want the focus to be on football.
George, just to follow on what you just said, I think a response ago, because it caught a lot of people's attention very quickly. You just said you're not announcing a deal today on purpose because you want the attention to be on football.
Yep.
To be clear, that would imply that the deal is done and codified and just you're waiting until after today.
I think you're reading too much into that.
So then what is the purpose behind not announcing something, which is what you just said?
We want to have the focus on football today. We have an incredibly good football story to tell, and we want that to be the focus today.
And I have to say, it's not, there are the opportunities are few and far between to give the media credit. My guy right here, and I hope he's ever heard of us. I have no idea. James Crepia, huge kudos, bro. Great question.
It's why we need journalists, because understanding what the phrase on purpose means, that means you are intentionally not announcing a TV deal. On purpose, we are not announcing the TV deal today to keep the focus on football. Oh, so just let me clarify. You have a TV deal. What is the purpose of you not announcing it? No, you're reading too much into it. Well, you did say you purposefully, so you had a purpose for not announcing your new TV deal.
So you have a deal, and there's a purpose why you're not announcing it.
Yeah.
That's what that means.
And George couldn't answer the question.
Owned.
Just a rowdy dude from South Carolina.
South Carolina.
Gives us $5 to say, should the PAC 8 just add Tulane and Rice in addition to SMU and San Diego State? I think after Colorado and Arizona leave, that'd be the best move. But I'm telling you, and there's a lot of people out there who are like, oh, Arizona and Colorado are gone. Dude, I'm just going to say it again, because all the Utah fans that are always pissed off about something on Twitter who are like, oh, I'll say again what I've said for months and months. There's not a president in this league who is excited to leave the Pac-12.
No.
Now, that's very different than there's not a president in this league that won't leave. I think every single one of the 10 remaining presidents and chancellors, if they had their perfect scenario, would stay in the Pac-12. I have no doubt about that.
Yeah.
That does not mean all 10 will stay. And I'm not, at this point, because I truly, for the first time this week, do not know if they have a deal or not. Because I just can't believe that Kliavkoff is going to sit up there, even in his worst incompetence,
Right.
and say on purpose, I am not announcing the TV deal today. Like, how do you make that mistake, dude?
And some people were wondering if it was a mistake. or if it was intentional.
I'm telling you, it was just one of those phrases that people throw out. Well, I am on purpose not announcing a TV deal today. And I think what goes through your head is like, oh,
yeah,
because as soon as he said that, we were sitting there watching it live, and we were like, whoa, what?
This is a code 10 abort.
What did and not being there is difficult because we're sitting there like, oh man, ask somebody, because I would have raised my hand and asked the question, right? And that's where James Crapia from the Oregonian came in, and I think he crushed it.
Yeah.
Now, I wish other people would have asked better questions. They did not.
Yeah.
I think this was one of those ones where think of the grammatical error that everybody always makes, supposedly versus supposedly.
It's 2 and 2.
Or, yeah.
There
like,
and there.
Exactly. They are and there. Like, I think he just tossed out on purpose to try and like it's quite literally. Like, I just think he threw it out. Like, he just spoke it. And at that point, like, hey, man, the bird flew away. Can't get it back in the cage here, bro.
I think he tries to overtalk. That's what I think. I think he tries to sound too professional in what he's saying. Instead, like, hey,
but why
we're
is that?
on purpose not doing something.
Instead of not saying just say, hey, I'm not going to talk about this. And the problem is he wasn't asked a question. He just was bloviating.
Yeah, which is where he gets in trouble.
Because
which, again,
he's not a good speaker.
How did he produce the back of the envelope calculations iconic statement? By bloviating.
Bloviating
right?
off the top of
Back of the envelope calculations.
Dibs gives us $5. This story is steadily moving away from a lack of media deal to levels of incompetent leaders. It's very sad. It is.
It is.
Because if you look at incompetent leaders, how do you ever recover from this if you're San Diego State? Because George Kliavkoff today just said he's never invited you to join the league.
But then what did San Diego State's players say last week?
Their all-world tight end said, yeah, we've been told it 18 months ago. And, oh, by the way, I would just go back to the letter that San Diego State wrote to the Mountain West, where they straight up said in this letter, if you look at this, remember this letter, this is the infamous letter now.
Mm-hmm.
Discuss the exit fee. B, with regard to the timing of the payout such that a 4-year installment period may be considered, because look at number 1, discuss notice requirement, 1-month extension given unforeseen delays involving other collegiate athletic conferences beyond our control. By the way, I would also then, and I'll say by the way 1,000 times, by the way, I would also then go back to the athletic director, J.D. Wicker,
Oh, yeah.
who's refused to come on the show to address the bullshit he spoke into the world with Seth Davis at The Athletic when J.D. Wicker said, hey, we're leaving San Diego State, the athletic director at San Diego State. We're leaving. Yeah, I don't know where we're going, whether the Big 12 or the Pac-12, but we're going somewhere. Oh, it turns out you're not going somewhere. And if you are, now it's going to cost you $34 million. And that doesn't even get near Adela De La Torre, the president at San Diego State, who wants the pro rata she deserves. So who's incompetent now? And what this tells me is you've got to hire the very best people. George Kliavkoff's not that guy.
No.
J.D. Wicker at San Diego State, not that guy.
Larry Scott, not that guy.
Larry Scott, not that guy. Adela De La Torre at San Diego State, the president, not that guy, pal. Not that guy. Brett Yormark's that guy. Commissioner Sankey, that guy. Right? You look at the way that organizations run, the very best organizations don't hire bad people to surround them with. And that's exactly what has happened here. You don't hire Kurt Schultz to surround George Kliavkoff and Kurt Schultz. Can you imagine?
So I said, yeah.
Can you imagine the people they're hiring?
Bro.
Like, how bad is this? And if George Kliavkoff is this bad of a leader, who's on his staff? Who's his chief? Like, you have to question the people around them. Because this is not, and I agree with the prior comment, this is not some simple little accident. No, friends. This is pure. And worse than that, it's not even that it's not an accident. This today was very intentional. This is exactly what you did to yourself. You put yourself, George, in this position. That's even worse that intentionally you did this. And it makes you incompetent. Because if we had George Kliavkoff sitting here today and I said to him, did you misspeak when you said on purpose? Was that a misspeak? He'd say no. I guarantee it, he would say no.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's been the Pac-12's precise problem the whole time, right? They're not willing to
Totally
set their
agree.
pride aside. And I think one final note on this, too, before we get to more comments, that J.D. Wicker thing, as bad as that was for San Diego State, we saw almost a mirror image of that at Arizona with Jedd Fisch. Jedd Fisch damn near said the same thing.
Yeah,
right?
shockingly, if you go back to what Jedd Fisch said, it's
the same thing.
Remarkably similar. Jedd Fisch, the football coach at Arizona, was on a podcast a couple of weeks ago and was asked about Arizona leaving the conference. And the guy hosting the podcast said to Jedd Fisch, hey, I know you can't answer this question, but I have to ask it. I know you can't answer it. Is Arizona leaving the Pac-12?
Arizona's going to have a place to go. And that's what I tell our recruits.
Be all right.
That's what I tell our donors. That's what I tell our families of current personnel. We have a great brand. And we have a great basketball program. We have a great softball program, a great baseball program. And I believe we have the opportunity to have an incredible football program.
Yeah.
We're fine.
Yeah.
Where we play our road games, we'll wait and see for our president. But we are locked in and loaded for this season, and we're going to try to just be where our feet are, which is right now in the Pac-10.
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 Dude, you see how similar that is? So my point with that
Oh
just
my
is that,
God.
hey, dude,
Wild.
if you are that guy and you're a P5 and you're at Arizona and you have a pile that's head high of Fs you don't give, you can say that type of thing. J.D. Wicker at a group of 5 school in the Mountain West making $4 million a year plus a little bit of extra change should not be running his mouth to Seth Davis at The Athletic about we'll be somewhere and then have George Kliavkoff stand up here in the conference that you said you wanted to go to and make a buffoon of himself. That's my problem with San Diego State.
It is remarkable. Remarkable. The Monty Show, presented by our good friends at Bucked Up Energy. Bucked Up Energy, the official energy drink of the Monty Show. And maybe I'm so perturbed today because somebody
I can get up and get you Miami. You want Miami?
didn't give me a buckshot today.
Well, we're out.
So I didn't go by the Bucked Up Energy store on my way into the crib today and get more buckshot. But you should absolutely do that. What you should do is get into the description of this show below. Click on the link that's going to get you a free sample of buckshot. I'm telling you guys, it makes all the difference in the world. Cannot wait. 24 hours from now, I will have finished 18 holes of golf, and it will have been amazing, and I will have pounded a buckshot to get me through it. You guys, it's clean, long-lasting energy. It gives you a mental lift, and it really gets you through that tough part of the day, especially on a Friday. You don't want to be working right now. You want to be at home. You want to be on the golf course. You want to be chilling with George Kliavkoff while, making yourself look good.
Yeah, you want to make back of the teleprompter calculations after you drink buckshot.
Back of the buckshot calculations and stuff. Get your free buckshot in the description below. Click the link. They'll send 6 buckshots right to your front door for free. Make sure you tell them you heard about it on The Monty Show. Bucked Up Energy, the official energy provider of The Monty Show. Okay, let me shut my mouth because you guys have been amazing today. More of your comments and a big shout out to Shooter, Texas.
Let's go.
Let's go, Shooter. Shooter, Texas, the newest member of The Monty Show, the Monty Militia. Well, I probably shouldn't say that, but if you want to become a member of the show, it's $1.99 a month. Gets all your comments read. Oh, by the way, you want to get into the members-only Instagram chat where we talk about all this stuff offline, 24 hours a day, $9.99 a month. All you got to do is click the join button, select your membership tier, and you're good to go like Shooter, Texas did. Shooter, good to see you. And this comment right here, I still think is amazing. Yeah. I think you're exactly right. That it's moving away from a lack of a media deal to level of incompetence.
Yes.
Unbelievable. Carson gives us $4.99 to say PAC was too arrogant, then flat-footed, now held hostage by its own members. Lesson learned, the possibility of failure always has to be an option. Indeed it does. Exactly right. Brass balls, what's up with you, my guy? I couldn't resist the chance to show how smart I am. It's better to just say nothing and thought a fool than open your mouth and remove all doubt.
And it's a great point. The problem is, though,
yes.
the problem is that as a commissioner of a conference, well, before this, I thought you could choose not to speak because he chose not to speak since December. But you roll up on your media day, and there is a sense of pressure. I mean, I have to admit, like, this was a big moment. This was something where it was like, hey, because you haven't spoken on this since December, you need to perform today. Like, flat out, no doubt about it. You got to come in here and give a great opening speech, and then don't make an idiot of yourself. And yet, what did you figure out a way to do? Let me get this right. So the speech itself, the way it was written, was not horrible, not great, but not horrible. But you were stumbling quite a bit. You were choking on the words a lot. And then the media thing happened. And I just, before the show, we were talking about the fact that, like, we really work hard on this show not to just have a bashing fest and not to just, like, hate on people and, like, make it negative all the time, because I think that burns people out. I get burned out listening to that. But we're not really left in any other position here. Like, I'm trying to figure out what was the positive out of Media Day? What is the story? Because I can tell you with Big 12 Media Day, dude, the headlines were, outside of players and individual programs, the headline was, hey, they're going to be in Dallas till 2031 with Big 12 Media Days. The championship game is going to continue to be held at Jarrett World till 2031 as well. As part of the championship game, they're going to have a Super Bowl-like halftime performance, like all this great stuff. And then Pac-12 comes around, and I can't tell you what the positive spin out of Pac-12 Media Day is outside of what my guy here said, which is Caleb Williams shaved his head, doesn't have the fro anymore, which is unfortunate because that thing was amazing. And Cam Rising said that he wants to play BYU as much as possible, and BYU fans are complaining, and Utah fans are bitching at BYU fans. Like, that's what Media Day was. And maybe a little Lincoln Riley.
Yeah, and I just think that it's unfortunate because Kyle Whittingham may be the happiest guy in the country right now because there's no talk about how good Utah is.
Yeah.
Picked him third. He loved that. Everything's good. But other than that, Lincoln Riley ought to be pissed. Caleb Williams ought to be pissed. And this is why they're leaving. Because I think if you are Caleb Williams and Lincoln Riley, you got absolutely buried today. Somehow, some way. What I think is arguably one of the best schools in the conference. Is gone already. We know that.
Yeah.
But on the way out the door, inarguably, USC is one of the best football teams in the country this year. And we're not talking about that. Caleb Williams has a real chance to win back-to-back Heisman trophies. We're not talking about that. That's the real problem here. We're not talking about, hey, who's going to replace DTR at UCLA? Hey, what about Jaden DeLora and the prepared statement he read and the support that Arizona has shown Jaden DeLore? We're not talking about that. We're not talking about the juggernaut in Seattle, year 2 in their offense, and the fact that, well, damn, maybe Washington's the best team in the conference. We're not talking about that.
Yeah.
We're talking about the incompetence of the commissioner again. That's what we're talking about. Fat Jesus, my guy, gives us $5. I am purposefully not chatting about my vibrant sex life today because I want to focus to be on this show. By the way, it's National Junk Food Day. Topic for later.
He has our full respect.
It is.
Yes,
absolutely
it is.
A topic for later. His vibrant sex life.
Yes.
Appreciate you. Tony Walashin. I hope I got that right. I am not about a media deal on Media Day. Signed, George Kliavkoff. Exactly right. Corey Erickson, Pac-12 quote-unquote leadership has treated its members very poorly beyond the fans and everyone else. The students deserve better. And my struggle on this is specifically, this should be a powerhouse of a conference.
Yeah.
And now you have multiple schools in this conference that don't believe there should be expansion. Multiple members don't believe there should be expansion. You have a commissioner that is purposefully withholding TV deals. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's absolutely ridiculous. Now, Cowboy Country. George Kliavkoff is playing kick the can. Time for Arizona State, CU, and Utah to come to the Big 12. Utah is a great football team. Arizona's best men's basketball in the West.
I don't know that he's playing kick the can, bro. I think he's playing do the best job that I can do and just survive. Like, that's it.
I think he is trying to make people believe there's a media deal. Because, again, I've spent 2 days trying to find a source who will tell me what the media deal is.
Yeah.
And I don't have a single TV industry source who says they know what the TV deal is or that they're involved.
Well, and usually, like, when, you're working in the sourcing world, when people know how to say yes, there's a TV deal without saying yes, there's a TV deal, right? Like, you get very, clear answers like, yeah, I can't really talk about that. You're going to have to wait till next week. Well, that would lend me to believe there's a TV deal. But that's not what anyone was saying. People were, like, literally saying, hey, yeah, I don't know anything about that. I haven't heard anything to the contrary.
But what's the other thing you're not hearing? The other thing you're not hearing is from Pac-12 sources, and we've got a bunch. And they don't want to talk. They haven't wanted to talk for the last 10 days. This conference, and to their credit, there's been a lid dropped on this conference, as there should have been 6 months ago.
Yeah, wow.
Because all these presidents and athletic directors and, again, the San Diego State disaster, all of that stuff should never have happened.
Yeah.
Should never have happened. You can't have the chancellor going after Twitter bot accounts at Colorado, right? You can't have them doing that. It's just so crazy to me that Mark Harlan, the athletic director at Utah, is having to call people out on Twitter. You can't be doing that.
Yeah.
This conference needs to zip it until George Kliavkoff is ready to announce the Pac-12's new media rights deal. Nobody should say word one. Yet, I have to believe they will. I have to believe they will. And it's really unfortunate.
Yeah.
Because it shouldn't have to be that way. Emma and ZZ world. I used to think that everything about the Pac-12 was a tragedy, but now I realize it's a comedy of errors.
Yes.
That's the worst part of it. Emma, you're not wrong.
Yeah.
Just a rowdy dude from South Carolina. Monty, what am I missing? If the Pac-12 media deal is $25 million and you're Oregon and the Big Ten offers $75, how do you stay? I think if you're Oregon on your own, you'd have to get a full share to leave. Because I think being a man on an island with USC and UCLA is a very difficult place for Oregon to be. Now, if you're Oregon, Washington, Stanford, and Cal, and you're getting $75 million each, say la vie, you're out. And nobody would blame you for that. First of all, the Big Ten has to want to be the one to pull the chain and knock everybody out, because you get those four, the Pac-12's dead. And does the Big Ten want to be responsible for killing off the Pac-12? I think that is Tony Petitti is a very intelligent dude.
Yeah.
The commissioner of the Big Ten is a very intelligent dude. Operator, TV guy. Hey, much like Brett Yormark, entertainment guy. They're not stupid. They're not. Notice what was the first thing that Brett Yormark talked about at Big 12 football media days? Hey, I've never mentioned a school. I'm not here to talk about schools. I'm not here to talk about poaching schools.
Yeah.
We're here. And this is what I wanted George Kliavkoff to do today. Steal the script, bro.
Yeah.
Steal the script. I'm not here to talk about TV deals. I know that's what you guys want to talk about. We are singularly focused on the 12 best football programs in the country today.
Yeah.
Those TV conversations and media deal stuff, hey, that's later down the road. Today, we are fully focused on Pac-12 football. That's what the script should have said.
Yeah.
That's what should have been on the prompter. But instead, dummy Mr., quite literally hemorrhaging shit out of your face, George, couldn't help himself.
Yeah.
Couldn't help himself. So nobody talked football. Everybody talked about George, which is exactly why you haven't seen him for 7 months.
And then we're going to sit here and wonder why,
crazy.
Utah continues not to get respect nationally, or why other programs in your conference don't get respect nationally.
Hey, man, I'm just telling you, it's It's really disappointing to me that this happened today.
Yeah.
Big Bad Brass Balls, I can make you smile. I donated to Advocates donations. Thank you very much. That's huge. The Advocates, for everybody watching the show today, and I'm serious, this is a really important deal going on at the Advocates, and they're going to be on the show next week to talk about this. They're working for homeless kids to get back to school. The Advocates are presenting sponsor on the show, the best injury attorneys in the business. They're working with a group called The Road Home. And The Road Home is one of the foremost homeless advocacy groups in the country. And they're working right now to help kids go back to school. And you look at the graphic on the screen. If you have Venmo, I'm begging you. I quite literally am begging you. $1, $10, $1 million, whatever you can do. Just get on Venmo, donate, and say, hey, Monty said homeless kids need help. Or, hey, I heard about you on the Monty Show. That would be awesome. And if you don't want to do that, great. Just give them $2, $5, $10. Because they're talking about homeless kids who don't have things like socks. They're trying to make sure that every homeless kid they come in touch with has multiple pairs of underwear. That's the level we're working at. Never mind a home, a shelter, a place where they can go home every night and do homework or rest well instead of a city park or a car or a van. They're talking about socks and underwear, clothing. Then we'll talk about markers, crayons, pencils, papers, the ability to read, the basic fundamentals of supporting yourself. We're talking about kids in kindergarten, 5th grade, high school, who don't have pants, who don't have shoes, who don't have socks. Imagine going to school when you were in school and you didn't have socks or underwear on. What would that do to your confidence? What would that do when people are snickering at you and you're trying to figure out algebraic, formulas and quadratic equations? You're more worried about your pants because you don't have underwear on. Think about that, man. That's what the Advocates are about. So, hey, I love that you guys are here. I appreciate it. If you can take 2 minutes and Venmo Advocates donations, 100% of it goes to The Road Home to support homeless kids on the Monty Show. Big Bad Brass Balls, I appreciate you. Brad Turner gives us $5 to say, pass it on to the kids, por favor, will do. Zachary Hardy, won't happen, but Pac-12 just adds San Diego State, Tulane, Rice, and SMU, Boise, Fresno State, or UNLV, and call it a day. See if it sticks at this point. Well, I think the reason that they can't expand, and again, I would love somebody to have asked George Kliavkoff about this, because he was adamant. We are not talking about expansion until the media rights deals are done.
Yeah.
Well, is that because your members won't allow you to expand to get a more valuable media rights deal because they may not stay in the conference? What is the reasoning for waiting to expand until after a media rights deal, or deals, as he said, are done?
Yeah.
Because if the cookie cutter deal that you're supposedly getting, and this is the propaganda that we've heard repeatedly from the Pac-12 and their mouthpieces, you're getting a deal that's far greater than the Big 12. Well, the Big 12's deal is $31 million. Let's call it 32. I think it's 31.7. $32 million with a pro rata from ESPN, which means if you add a P5 school, we'll pay you on par for that P5 school. So if you add Gonzaga, if you add, again, I mean, pick the school, Arizona, Utah, whoever you think it might be in the Pac-12 to the Big 12.
Yeah.
We'll pay you an equal share, ESPN will, for that. So if you don't have a P5 team to add, and by all accounts, and if you've got one and I don't know about it, please let me know.
It's not the best situation, and we all know that.
But San Diego State's not a P5.
Right.
And who's on this list? Tulane's not a P5. Rice isn't a P5. SMU's not. Boise's not. Fresno's not. UNLV is not. So you're going to get all this money. Why not add those teams so that you can bolster your media deal? Oh, that's right, because your 10 members won't approve expansion until they have a media rights deal, because they don't know if they're going to be there or not.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's all that I can say.
Yeah.
It's all that, I mean, that's all that makes sense. Here on the Monty Show, where every single day we tell you on this show that our official pizza of the show is Papa Murphy's Pizza. Make sure you use the promo code Monty25 to go ahead and get yourself the single greatest calzone you've ever had.
At Papa Murphy's, we do more than just pizza. We do calzones.
Papa Murphy's does calzones?
Oh, I think you mean I do the calzones.
And how do you do it, Dad?
How do I do it? How do I do it?
Oh, well, we do it with fresh ingredients and hand-shredded cheese tucked in a scratch-made dough.
That's how, honey.
At Papa Murphy's, we make great pizza.
You don't forget the calzones.
Order now at papamurphys.com.